Welcome back to Aces 53 with Ed Parcaut, and
What the? How long we been together? That's it, Brian. Galke.
Ed Parcaut and myself. What is Aces 53? That's something that Ed ran into in college. A professor. It was all about teaching sales. So attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile. Right.
That's right. One of the things we forget to do all the time, or at least I do anyway.
I re-recorded some videos 3 times today for that very reason. But
Right.
yeah, so that's where Aces 53 came from. What's the best hand for aces? And then what else is a joker?
The 53 stands for the first joker in the deck.
Right.
So we'll move.
Yeah.
You act like you talk about it for the first time, like every time you do
that. Maybe new listeners. So yeah.
No, what I mean is the way you say it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on.
Yep, we'll move on.
It's just important that Joker is a unique ability you have that you bring to the table in sales. And no other time in history is it so important to understand sales and actually, because you got one bite at it, usually at the apple, right? So you don't want to mess that up, especially right now, because I'm seeing and feeling and hearing a lot how this market is really getting worse out there.
Yes.
If you look at my industry, we're at the 40th worst level for affordability. So the 40-year, the worst level. You look at, we haven't had inflation like this for 42 years. So everything, at least this administration is consistent with making us feel in the 40s something. So,
but not to get political, right?
When you just cancel leases in Alaska for the fun of it. Now get ready for California to see $7 a gallon gas again, and other places to see higher than that. And that's not at a time when we should be doing that, because people are hurting.
Right. And so what you and I were talking about right before we started the live is you can see lots of industries are hurting. You were talking about your industry is hurting, right? And everybody I talk to, it's a little bit down, or companies are having to refinance their debt. And in order to do that, there's only a few ways, right? You can increase profits or you can decrease costs. And so companies are getting rid of PTO. Companies are getting rid of people. There's all these ways that companies are having to cut back. And of course, that upsets employees because they see as part of their benefits taken away. And, you and I were talking before about conferences, attending different events. They're not as full as they were in the past. And ones that used to sell out very quickly are lingering on. And you mentioned earlier, one of the ones that is a local one we've kept an eye on, they just went to multiple payments, right? Instead of the one lump sum.
Split.
Yeah,
split payments. Split payments. Do half of it now, half later.
And that seems to be consistent with every type of marketing campaign, webinar that's being done. It's I followed one like 2 weeks ago, and they were doing a webinar about how to do webinars. And you could tell they didn't close as much as they want because, hey, we're going to throw in an extra day. And then, a couple days later, we heard you, and now we're going to open up payment plans. And we've heard you, and now we're going to do these follow-up Q&As, which can be part of your marketing campaign, right, for follow-up.
Right.
But like you and I have talked about, I think, one, people are tighter on the pocketbook. 2, people are just going to wait and see, well, how much is it to buy the recordings versus go to the event? So you and I were at TNC last year, and that was one of the things is there were some people who went, and some people were like, well, by the time you pay for airfare, hotel, everything else, it's almost better. You lose out on the networking side, but if you're looking for content, then you can always buy the courses later.
Right. And, it's I don't know how to put this, but it's just sad that we have to be here because we didn't have to be here.
Right.
That's just all I want to get at. We didn't have to be here. But I mean, we've been talking about that. I've been saying since last year that this year is going to be a lot worse than what people thought. And it took a little bit longer to get there. We're finally getting there.
Right.
And we're gonna see, because there was one company who just laid off 10% just last week that a lot of people don't know about. Some of the bigger companies have been laying people off, and it's been a quiet layoff. Nobody really knows about it. It hasn't been put out there. And even, I mean, everybody's looking at, well, what can I do to keep going? I mean, at everything. I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
100%. One of the events I went to 3 weeks ago, that's what they were talking about is it's going to be good for if you are some type of landlord, because they believe a lot more people are going to sell their homes and become renters for a while. But most other industries, they think, are not going to do very well for quite a while. And so that really kind of feeds back into what you and I talk about on every week, or now more than ever, yes, you can hire out things long term, but you need to understand what can you do for cheaper, faster, better. So like we've been talking about using what was it Cast Magic? Cast Magic, Chat GPT to write stuff, so you don't need a copywriter from there. Now with Opus Clips,
it's try Opus Pro, by the way.
Yeah, but if
you want to if you want to try it out, go to tryopuspro.com and you'll be able to go there. And Cast Magic, same thing. If you want, it's both of those have changed so much that they sent a thing to me to do a testimonial video, right? So I did one. I sent it back to them. Then they sent it to me and go, hey, if you put this and post this and do this, I'm like, well, let me get my affiliate code first so that I can put that right.
If I don't mind helping you, but how to help me.
I want to get paid for also. And if you were talking about before this, you've been listening to or you've been reading the book from
Alex Hormozy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I listened to his 100,000, the first one, right? And then so part 1 is that, and part 2 is the sales book. And I've been listening to the sales book, and it's actually really good. I'm not saying
the opposite. The first one was $100 million sales. Now this one's $100 million leads. Is his second book.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. Part 1 was the other one, and part 2 is this. I've listened to the first one. I'm listening to this one, and I actually have been enjoying it because it just little things you don't think about, and how you can use agencies differently, and how to do, the way he talked about how to use, you haven't probably got there, but using agencies is exactly how I feel about it. What can I learn from you to be able to do more? Because you need to do more with less and be out there more somehow.
Right. And that's, it's an interesting book. You and I talked about before. He went out and did a webinar, and he kept building up, and people were waiting for what's the cost. And he gave it away for free. And early on in his book, he explains the rationale for it is they invest in companies. It used to be $3 million and up. Now in the new book, they talked about they lowered it to $1 million, but he's trying to create more businesses that eventually he can invest in. So yes, he's got his long-term plan for it, but you got to like his book. It's funny because when you think about how much money they've made and what they do, I like the fact that they talk about all the failures before it. So it kind of reminds me like Russell Brunson, all that. But then the fact that he uses like stick figures for all of his stuff cracks me up to a degree. And 2 years ago, he came and spoke at Brad Lee's event. And I was just sitting in the back thinking, well, who is this guy? And not so much for his knowledge, but that's when he still had the huge handlebar mustache. And just when he drew everything out, it was like, this is so simple. And then he gets done and you find out what he's worth. And you're like, oh, wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, you listen to the stories about how he lost so much in the beginning, and how that he had, gyms would told their people to refund, get your refund and you can come to me directly, and it was $150 million or $150,000. I'm sorry, $150,000, and what he had to do to make it up. But that's how we as entrepreneurs are: is the fire to us, we figure it out, and that's what you need to do in this time, is because you need to figure out what is hurting people, and how can you fix that? How can you fix their pain? I had an example. Do you have anything to add real quick?
I'm going to grab the book while we're talking so people can see it.
All right. And so what I've been looking at is how to do this through, TikToks and YouTube and those kind of things. And I came across a couple of TikToks the other day. Where'd you go? To the bathroom?
I'm grabbing 2 different books.
Just grab it, man. You don't have all day. So recently, I know you got 3 of them. So why don't you send me one? Yeah. I'll give you $8. I'm just kidding. All right. So I've been watching, I've been doing the editing and stuff for my social media stuff just to get it down, so eventually I can give it to a VA. And there's a ton of stuff I can talk to you about that, and we can bring up later. But we were talking about what we can do to make it better. Well, we got somebody coming on Thursday. You're not going to be here Thursday, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
I will not.
All right. So we have a person that's coming on Thursday that's going to help you go through your messenger and connect with your people through that way, so you can get leads and talk to them that way. And we're going to have them come in on Thursday and explain their software and what they do. And it's a great program. And plus their payment as you buy it, or it was when I got it, was for life.
Oh, wow.
It's not like monthly or this. It's like you paid $600 for the whole thing for life. So
the 2 books you're talking about, so this was his first one, was $100 million offers.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't what you said.
And then the new one is $100 million
leads. Yeah.
There you go.
But go to his website, acquisition.com, and you have all his courses right there, everything you need. And it's, if you watch them, they're good.
Yeah.
They're not, there's nothing, anything groundbreaking, but it just he makes it simple for you.
Well, and he even goes through in the new one. I vaguely remember everything about the other one, but this one was very much where he was trying to get a guy that still wanted to come out and do a gym launch. And he threw out some number. He's like, well, 6,000 will be, this guy will go away. And the guy agreed. And so the next guy, he just said, okay, 8,000. The next guy, he said 10,000. And people were like, okay, because they were making 30,000 in the first 90 days. But it was interesting because it's not like he priced everything perfectly. He pulled something out of his butt to do it. But what he did talk about, and it's a lot of what you and I have talked about, is when he was stuck, a lot of what he did is he picked up the phone and called all of his previous clients, talked about his new idea. And that's giving a little bit of away, but he had to come up with $150,000 in 30 days because of all the chargebacks and be able to pay the people that he owed commission and salary and everything too. So he goes through step by step what he experienced throughout that and how he was trying to grow it through something small. And it does kind of plant that seed in the back of your head that if you have a higher price ticket, you don't need as many people. So do you want to, 1,000 people paying $100 or 100 people paying $1,000? What really is in your market? What's your sweet spot? All that. So.
Right. And then he gets into in that sales one about employees and how important they are. Because a lot of us look at it negatively. Employees are a pain in the ass, blah, blah, blah. That's because you hired the wrong person. You hired the wrong, or you're in a market that's dying. And I don't mean dying, but one of the things in his other books he talked about is make sure you pick the right market.
Yeah.
Right. Because right now going in the real estate market and the mortgage market might not be the right place to go unless you're coming in with money, cash to buy stuff right now where other people can't buy it.
Right. Well, and somebody was telling me yesterday, was it right after 2008? Like you couldn't put, 1%, 5%, 10% down in 2008, 2009. You had to put 20 or 30% down, if not higher.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily. That's what they told me yesterday.
Well, it depends on who you are. FHA was there. So back then, so you brought me on a subject. So the government got involved and they allowed FHA loans all the way up to the like 700,000, 699,000 at the time,
really,
to buy out these big loans and refinance them and all this stuff. So there was a ton of that. Yeah, they had other programs to come in and fix that. The conventional market and other markets were in the toilets because Fannie and Freddie were taken over by the government. That's why you couldn't do it that time, is what you're talking about. So they had FHA come in and fix that for a while. And then the government took them over and then went through and then eventually everything changed. That's different though. We had a mortgage meltdown, a financial crisis because of bond rating agencies rating bonds wrong. Yeah. Those guys should have went to jail. Nobody else. They're the ones that caused the problem. And I saw an article that they're finally getting in trouble for it now. It's like, freaking, how long ago was this?
Yeah, 15 years ago.
Yeah. And now they're finally getting in trouble.
For people who aren't familiar with it, you can go watch the movie The Big Short on TV, and that's kind of, it does a recap of everything that Ed just mentioned.
Yeah. And the best part is when he's talking to the stripper and she's just closing on her third or fourth home. Right. Yeah. Because I saw somebody who was making a statement about 2008, how it was predatory lending. Okay. Not all of it was predatory lending. Correct. People read this. Nobody read stuff. People trusted. The people who took advantage of most people back then were family members, unfortunately.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So most of the people who got people to get into those pick-a-pays and other loans, a lot of them were family members who were in the business. You need to get into this, telling them to do their family into these programs, and they should never have been put in those programs. So
that's they were talking about a lot of people did the same thing as like they did around 2007, 2008, which is they did ARM loans, and they got into them a few years ago, and now the current interest rate's almost 8%. And
but a lot of those are really for the commercial and multifamily market. And they don't have a choice.
Right.
A lot of commercial places will only do a loan for a short period of time, and they want it to be adjustable. Multifamily, depending on the size, you might not have avenue to use Fannie and Freddie on those.
Well, there was a guy that was on a different Zoom I was on the other day that he took out a home equity loan. When we took it out, it started at 4%, and now it's up to 8%. And he said, my payments are an extra $600 a month. I don't have $600 extra. So like you and I were talking about before this, if you keep up with the financial news, we don't want to be, negative this whole thing. We'll go back to leads, but you can read up on how are people doing with credit cards, how are people doing with refi loans, how many people are claiming, or how many houses are in pre-bankruptcy. But one of the things in the book was he figured out I had to call my leads. I had to call people and figure out who my leads were. Who were people that either bought from me in the past, or people that gave me their email and address in order for some type of trade of value. They either bought a product, they downloaded a free lead magnet, something else. But it goes back to what we've talked about before, is a lot of people are afraid to pick up the phone, call a lead, or even email or text a lead. But yet these
even
are people that gave you their info. Yeah.
Even their clients are afraid to call.
Right.
One thing, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the one thing he talked about is he had to find out what a lead was, right? When he was writing the book, he had to actually research what's a lead. And a lead, is a lead a name and phone number? A lead to me is somebody who calls you wanting something information, right? That's a lead prospect. They're nobody until they really want to get into application status and move forward for us. So.
And we're in interesting times where people's metrics are based on how many followers do you have on TikTok and all that. But like they talked about, even on TikTok, it's more about how many people engaged versus how many follow you, right? And then, as you mentioned before, the average age is 13 on TikTok. So it's still, even those numbers, while they sound impressive, doesn't always translate over to business. And that's why you have to chase business so many different ways. And the person you're going to bring on Thursday is talking about how else is another way that you can use your existing Facebook page and things to do it. So I don't want to give away too much of the thunder, but
no, it's a great thing where they've figured a way to go through your current friends on Facebook. They're supposedly your friends, because there's a whole new thing about, going after the people on your business page. They have to engage with you in the last 24 hours and all this other bullshit. Where your friends, it's not the same way. It's just another way to get them to connect with them and stay connected. Because a lot of our friends I do business with, right? Real estate agents and other stuff. So it's a great idea. I was like, wow, that's a really good idea. And the other thing, back to your statement on TikTok, there, at first I was seeing a lot more of that. Lately, it's been a lot older.
Yeah.
For me. So
good. Well, you've had several things go viral in the last.
I don't know, 700 some thousand, but
yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, the thing, but it's again, what pain is out there and how are you fixing that pain? That's the big thing. You need to. It's not so much about getting likes and everybody loves you and this and that. And what are you getting from it? Because it doesn't matter all that if you're getting no business from it, right? And I've had people reach out and other stuff from there, but we're in a unique situation right now where, and this is, I'm going to last thing in my industry. If you're trying to buy a house, you got to make $100,000+ a year, period. No ands, if, buts about it. And that might not be a house you want to live in. Right.
May just be your first house.
Well, no, I mean, the neighborhood you might want to live in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you and I talked about before, a lot of people get hung up on, I have the best product. That's great. But until you help somebody else understand what their pain is, they don't know why to move to your product. So when we used to do all these presentations, we had to figure out in our responses, how do you focus on the pain of change? Now, you do that two different ways. If you're the incumbent, meaning you're the one who's in there, you need to remind the customer at times of how difficult it was to go through something. So in your business, you don't want to necessarily do that. But in the one I came from.
Well, when they go to work with somebody else, I do.
Exactly. You want them to know, hey, look, I've already taken care of you. You don't want to start with somebody from scratch. So that was one of the ways that once we won a piece of business, we could come in because that was something we could focus on is, again, what's their pain? Well, the pain of change, retraining all your staff, doing something differently. So people look for comfort, and even though security is an illusion to a large degree, people look for that. So you can focus on the pain that right now is not being solved if you're the one coming in. But if you're the incumbent and you're trying to keep someone, an existing customer, focus on what pain you've already solved that would be a pain again if they went with somebody else.
Well, the biggest thing you got to remember is what pain are you solving, and how does your solution, what new pain is caused by your solution?
Right.
And here's an example. I saw a couple of agents doing on TikTok talking about how to, they call it house hack, where you rent out a room or you buy a duplex or a triplex and you rent the other sides out. That was never a hack. That's just what you do to me. But they were saying how to do this, which is a great idea. But what did they just do? they tried to solve someone's pain for that don't, yes, we can qualify them for a certain payment, but they don't think they can afford it and they can probably rent these rooms out. What's their
Right.
net? But what pain have you just created? How do I get these people?
Right.
Right. Well, I said, well, what they should do is realtor.com just now is connected with Airbnb. You can find the property and you can go, okay, well, this, how much can I rent this room for a night?
Mm-hmm.
How much can I rent this room for a night? You can't use it to qualify, but for you could possibly get a traveling nurse, traveling doctor, rent those rooms out to them, 3 months at a time. And that's it. And then you just helped drop your payment in half.
Right.
Are you following what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So but they didn't, that was the one step they didn't have. That's why their thing was 200 instead of 700,000. Are you following me? Because they just solved one little problem and that person was, oh, now how do I do that? But if they had done them both at the same time, boom, it would have taken off.
Right.
So, it's amazing what I'm learning on this shit.
I talked to somebody, spoke to some people in Grapevine last week, Grapevine, Texas, and Grapevine they outlawed Airbnb. But they grandfathered in several people because several people who had been there sued the city and just said, you have hotels here, you have other things. And they fought for the right. And having a kid, sometimes staying at an Airbnb is nicer because you have a little more room, right? Plus, you can go in, it feels like a home versus, a hotel. You can cook in it, things you can't do in another one. I've had some friends who, when they first moved to Austin, they lived in Airbnbs for 3 months at a time to see, do I like this part of town before they figure out where do they want to end up. And that's what a lot of people do when they're first moving is, do several long-term 1 month Airbnb, 2 month Airbnb. And then when they figure out, okay, this is now where I want, instead of flying in a day or two, getting an apartment or a home, and then being really unhappy with that 6 month to 1 year lease.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm talking about, just a room or,
Right.
a bedroom, not the whole place, because
Right.
I was talking to somebody else and they had these people who had created their upstairs and a walk in, and they have travel nurses. They come 3 months out of the, at a time. They work at night, right? So they sleep during the day and they never see them. And there's no parties because they don't know anybody here. Right. And it's a totally different, and so that's perfect. So I'm just saying there's ways that you can do this to help you any way we do this. But when you're solving a problem, you need to take the next step and say, have I created another issue? And if you did, help them solve that issue. And you just need to go through the steps. I mean, I came across the thing where I helped create it for myself for my YouTube channel and make sure, what am I hitting everything what does my channel stand for? We all think we do this right, and we're going to get this information out for this reason or that reason. And then you go, okay, is this, and you're going, what the hell? Did I not even think about that?
Yeah. And so just since we're talking a lot about real estate, what are other careers that you can do this? Well, if you sell boats, do they have a dock person? If you know what lake they're going to go to, you can sit here and go down the list of things of, if you sell a product, what's somebody else that you should partner with? So Steve talks about all the time. If he books one gig somewhere, he'll see how many additional gigs can he book in that same area, because he's already going to be in that part of town. So does he do a happy hour, a breakfast?
Right, go back to your Alex Hormozy one, because he talks about that in his book, A Lead Magnet, and how you connect with other people to connect so that you can get leads, and you give something for free so that you can get what you really need for what you sell. Right. He talked about
it. I cut off last night. Don't ruin the plot. That's as far as I got. It was page like 47.
It's further on. It's like he has a attorney who does LLCs for free as a lead magnet, and then but what he sells them is the accounting software they're going to need down the road, the other stuff. So there's so many ways to do this, and what I'm getting at is we forget. Yeah, we're not when we're young and dumb and we're trying everything we possibly can, then we get in our ways, and then eventually, I don't say we're old, we're in our ways and we forget about the new shit that keeps coming. Right. We need to go through a time constantly, whether we like it or not, that we relook at our shit all the time to see what we're doing wrong so we can fix it and do better going forward.
And that's why being smaller, the more nimble you are, the faster you can turn. So, I've worked for small corporations and large corporations. Small corporations can flip around and adjust to the market quickly. It takes a long time to turn a big ship, right? So that if you are smaller, since that's what a lot of our audience is, it's not people who are working at Oracle and big companies sitting on here listening. it's smaller entrepreneurs, salespeople, small business owners. There's advantages to that. Are there some disadvantages? Sure. But you can adapt faster because you don't have to go rewrite every employee manual and everything else. Like you and I were talking, how many people do you know that use ChatGPT that are salespeople, entrepreneurs, small business owners? A lot. If you ask employees, they're like, well, why do I need to do it? So it's just one of those things that if you are smart enough to play with technology while you have the opportunity. Just last night, I saw a video or post about now you can use ChatGPT. It links into Canva, so you can have ChatGPT help you create artistic type, logos, PowerPoint presentations, everything else in Canva via using ChatGPT, right? So that's another thing that you may have had to outsource before to something. So just pay attention and play with it all, and including like the software you're going to show on Thursday, where how do you use an existing service and look at it differently and think, okay, how can it turn into a lead? Or what can I create, like you said, for a lead magnet where it gives value to somebody else and you get their information in exchange? And what both Alex, so many people talk about, Russell Brunson, is the magic is in your list. And how often are you reaching back out to the people who've already said, hey, I like you? How often are you keeping in touch with them versus trying to post and catch people that you don't even know are out there? And I'm guilty of that. We've got what's her name, who just came out with the book, Martha, right? Like she in hers is talking about how often are you sending out newsletters to your people? And then what did Rob and Alex talk about the other day? That's the hottest trend. Yeah.
Everything old is new.
Exactly.
Because we used to mail those freaking things out forever. Paper. I actually sent out a magazine every month about their about the houses and stuff like that. It was one guy, he created them. You just paid so much a month and they sent them out, and it was you on the, but they were your magazine. It was actually a pretty good idea. It was sad when he stopped it because of the market.
Yeah.
And again, there's so much stuff you can do, because even I'm adding to mine. I'm getting my podcast down a lot better. I know a whole system on how to do podcasts, which so that people want them more, right? Besides, everybody does the up to get it to a podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Some people put a video on YouTube, right? But what they don't do is the next level, which is 3 cut-ups of shorts.
Right.
Then 2 additional videos, 1 3-minute to 5-minute long, up to max 10 minutes. I say the shorter, the better, the more you can optimize them. And all optimizing means putting the right information of what's going to be in the video so people can search for it. Right. And you do that, and it's amazing how much more subscribers. My subscriber count is finally moving up on my YouTube, because like I told you, I didn't touch it for 9 months.
Right. Well, for me,
none of my stuff for 9 months. None.
I never used LinkedIn. Why? I've been an employee for 21 years. So that's having to learn I could sit out here and go, oh, I don't need it. But, here, with that being said, on the inverse side, don't stretch yourself so thin that you're spread. Well, I don't know how to say it, because I just said spread yourself so thin that you're chasing too many things at once. Find one that's your sweet spot, but then grow the other ones at the exact same time. So for you and I have talked about like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, top 3. I know LinkedIn, I post there, but I have never posted there. So it's learning to grow that. And I'm horrible about putting anything on Twitter.
We put these videos on there.
Yeah.
That's posting on there. So.
Yeah. It's a good
no, I mean, and I do a lot of my videos on there, unless it's you, because we switch back and forth. The one thing I don't post is just little trinkets, little this and that, but it's important to get your information out there. But one thing I read, we've been listening to, he was on Pinterest, and someone says, because you're on Pinterest, I know that you're authority, but you're real. So because I used to post to that, but it's like, I really don't do Pinterest.
I've never even logged into Pinterest.
My wife sends me stuff all the time of shit I need to do that she finds on there. So that's why I don't like it.
That's funny.
Yeah. Here, build this for me. Here, build this for me. Okay. Hire somebody else to do it.
The point of what we were talking about today is constantly be searching for what are new ways to find ways to customers, or to even help your existing customers. So you and I were talking before. How many people have we relayed ChatGPT to, or Opus Clips? Sorry, try Opus Pro. All these other things.
It's actually try Opus Clips.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I also have the other one, so it doesn't matter. I just
Okay.
try Opus
Run both.
Clips. Yeah, because I like originally I got Get Opus Pro, but then most people won't know it's Opus Clips because Opus Pro is their actual website, their
URL.
domain. Yeah, their domain. So
It's kind of like Go High Level, right?
yeah,
They're
I
actually
know,
called
but that's
High
not
Level.
Go High Level or try
Right.
Go High Level. It just
Yeah.
too long.
It's too funny.
But what you were just talking about, and
Mhm.
I had a comment for it. I can't remember what we were just talking about before we got sidelined there.
We're talking about well, we went into how you need to adapt and keep using new software and trying
Chat
different.
GPT. You were talking about Chat GPT. My attorney, I saw him because he's got a piece of property getting sued by the neighbor because they think they should have an easement on our property, which they don't. But that's all I'll say. And he's like, he was talking to me about how a friend of his writes, he works for the government, he's lazy, so he drops in a couple lines and then tells ChatGPT to write the email for him. He goes, you were way ahead of that because you were like 3 months ahead of everybody else I know that's using it. And it's like, I just got lucky because I came across it from our network and our groups and I saw it. Same with, there's a new AI for real estate agents out there to help them price properties, and also they have to upload 10 pictures and it will tell them help them to figure out the value of the home and if there's any remodeling they should do to get more price points for it.
We'll have to bring Joe back on one weekend too, because he is currently working on AI bots that you learn through Chat GPT that he's given to customers that answers the questions as if Joe was there in the chair.
Oh, really?
It's crazy. Yeah. So we'll have to bring him back on again too.
If he pays us.
Ironically, he just sent me something that now CapCut's in Chat GPT as well. He's stalking us.
Yeah. Well, it's chats everywhere. I mean, it's the open AI. It's like Cast Magic goes, I guarantee you they use open AI in their software to create what they come up with because there's no way they're coming up with it. But think about it, you create something, you have somebody else working it, and all you do is sell it. It's shocking.
Yeah. Well,
and it learns and gets smarter.
Supposedly Apple's working on a version as well. So I tried Google's Bard and it was too clunky for me, but it'll be interesting to see what Apple's version looks like.
Yeah, the problem is that I added too many little extra stuff to mine, so all these little menus pop up all the time. I got to close them down and get rid of them because I don't really need them for. I don't use it for what a lot of people use it for. I just use it for a few things. So now that I've Cast Magic, I don't use it as much as I did because I used to use it for all my. I transcribe, drop the stuff in there, have it create it. Which I don't have to do now.
Right.
The Cast Magic, if there's something better than Cast Magic out there, let me know because that is really good for me.
I still need, obviously I don't use it for the same things, but even Opus Clips this week added on, do you want like karaoke where it cuts across, does all the different words? It added even more features and functions since last Saturday.
Right. Like they're going to have B-roll before you know it. So
yeah.
So, just wait. It's going to get to a point where it's like, but I look at a lot of other people's stuff, like people we know, and they're like, it's perfect video, perfect everything. I don't know if people really like that.
No, they've done a lot of people have talked about this, like Ty Lopez, Russell Brunson, you name it. What's his name? Dennis. I just forgot Dennis's name. Anyway, he's a big marketing guy. And even his whole thing was people like the shaky camera. People don't, if it's perfection, then they think it's not realistic. It's too perfected. One of our friends, Pam, she likes to put out all of her bloopers, right? And it makes people kind of like, oh, okay, now everything has to be perfect. Dennis Yu, that's what I was trying to think of. YU.
How did you forget Dennis Yu?
I don't know why. I just remember Dennis, but he talked about, use your camera and just when you're looking at a camera, just think that's just one person that I want to help. And that, when people start doing that, like when you walk around, people see, oh, you're out. And you're not just sitting in your office talking about things. So I agree with you. I think that when you try and make it perfect, it's one thing. Now, if you're selling a $30,000 video course, okay, make it look nice. But when you're sharing content live and you stumble on a word and everything else, I think it just shows people you're authentic. I know this is Steve's favorite word.
Anyway, what are you going to do? Yeah. All right, I think we've been killing it for a while here. It's time to go.
So you'll be here on Thursday with the Joker, which is your guest, talk about their new software, and then I will see you back the following Tuesday.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Yep.
You gonna
Thanks,
take us
Ed.
out?
Yeah, I'll take us out. So everybody here, if you enjoyed what you've seen, the best way you can help us, go to YouTube and to the ACES 53 YouTube page. Give us a like, share it with someone else. Give us ideas what else you want us to talk about. Ed just kind of and I talk about our experiences, what we've seen during the week, and then we bring on guests, some cool people we know, but we're always open for other guests or other ideas to talk about. So with that being said,
hold on before you go, since you just said something. So they say give them one thing to do.
Sure.
So people, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
There you go. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.